Welcome to Success Unlimited Podcast. I'm your host, Tom Simmons. And with us, we have an extraordinary guest, Tony Flattum. Tony, welcome. How are you doing today?
I'm doing awesome, man. Thank you for having me. Really appreciate it.
Well, I'm looking forward to jumping right into today's conversation. You have an amazing story to tell. And I would like to, if you just kind of kick the show off and tell us a little bit about Tony.
Yeah, so Tony Flattum, I live in Stillwater, Minnesota, and born and raised here. And I got in the roofing business back in 2002. So it's been a long journey and went through a lot of up and down challenges over the years, but learned a heck of a lot. And I was always real silent about my business. Like I wouldn't really post much or do much, just went to work and grinded every day and grew it for a lot of years and started going to a lot of masterminds and doing all that. And everyone started to say, man, you got to tell your story, start putting it out there more on social media. So I've been doing that the last year and a half. And now it's been great because I've been getting a lot of advice and some good feedback, and helping people along the way is the biggest thing.
So I think I'm going to kind of jump ahead to I know your success that you've had. And it's funny when you're silent in business on social media, as far as the owner is concerned, and all of a sudden you're like, hey, here's my success. It appears that it's almost overnight success. You and I know that's not true. That's right. Never the way the business happens. But what kind of reactions did you get when you said, hey, here's who I am, here's where I'm located, here's what I've done? What kind of reactions have you gotten?
Yeah, definitely from a lot of people that don't really know the whole backstory and where I came from and what I had to go through to get to where I'm at today. I mean, yeah, they thought it was just, oh, you had some really good years back to back. I mean, it must be nice. But the ones that been with me for a long time, or at least grew up with me, knowing where I came from, didn't have a whole lot of money. They knew it was a grind all the way through and hurdles I had to go through to get where I'm at. So I'm getting a lot more love and support than haters right now. So it's been good.
Yeah. And if you wouldn't mind sharing with the audience, I guess the backstory, where you started. You started 2002 in roofing. And would you mind just giving us a progression, like maybe in somewhat chronological order, a high level overview as far as where you've come from?
Yeah, definitely. Well, I'll even go back maybe a little bit further just to kind of give a backstory. I mean, yeah, my family, mom and dad, didn't really, know business and didn't really have business degrees. They were just hard workers working their job, living check to check. So we always lived, pretty tight growing up. We had an amazing family. They taught me the love and support of taking care of people, giving your shirt off at the back. I mean, I remember seeing my mom and dad giving their last $5 to somebody to help them out when they probably needed it more, but they gave it to other people, and they were just kind of that way. So I saw that my whole life growing up, of them just helping people even though that they needed it more. And they would go to work and just provide and put food on the table and a roof over our head. And so, yeah, just grew up with that, living pretty tight, but wanted to be the one to change the family tree and add and do something bigger, mainly to take care of them, to provide a good life, to give back on what they were doing for us. And then also for my future family of my kids and my wife now. So it's just working right out of high school, didn't have no idea what I was going to do with my life, my career, had a hard time through school, wasn't very book smart at all. So it was one of those things where I was just always just going just to graduate, to get it done. But I would read paragraphs 2 or 3 different times, trying to understand the questions. So reading wasn't my strong suit. But then I graduated and found some jobs afterwards, bounced around a little bit, and just always worked my butt off trying to get to the top, to figure out what I could do, and found some pretty cool jobs. I mean, one job I was flying around and modeling Best Buys and all over the country from 19 until 22. And that was a great experience for me because I just could see how everyone kind of lives outside of my hometown, growing up, and you kind of get comfortable in your own town, not knowing what's out there and where to even go and what kind of path to even take. And I had no idea what kind of degree or what path I would even be on. So didn't want to go to college. I wasn't smart enough, I thought, to go to college and even pass college, and didn't want to just go. So didn't have nothing really I could focus on. But then I always say, like, the roofing business found me in 2002. I I was kind of getting tired of traveling around for those 3 years. It was fun for a while, but I hit the kind of the top to where the raises and stuff were slowing down, and the potential was kind of slowing down, and just getting burnt out, being gone every week out of a suitcase, remodeling Best Buys throughout the country. So when I mentioned it to my family or my friends, I was trying to look for something different to get into. And my brother's friends, they opened a construction company in Minnesota doing this roofing gig. And that's when he's like, hey, these guys keep calling me, asking me to come over and work with them in this roofing business. They're making a ton of money. Things are going good. It's really growing, and it's right in our hometown. Go check it out. And so I went and checked it out, and they're like, gave me two options. They're like, well, you can go into sales and, on the roofing side, or you can go into production. Well, at that point, I didn't really see myself being a sales guy. I just didn't know. So I'm like, I'll go to production. So that was my first year in 2002. And I got into production to start off and learned a lot. I mean, it was really cool to get into production side because I was meeting the crews. I was walking around. I was watching around job sites, helping them close out jobs, meeting with the city inspectors, doing some repairs, running materials, and did that for the whole season. And thought it was a pretty good gig. I was working some long hours because in Minnesota, you're working from March until November, and then the things slow down quite a bit in the winter months for installing. So they're like, you'll work 5-6 days a week, 8-10 hours a day, but then you're going to have a lot more downtime in the winter. So I'm like, what an awesome gig. So did that. But then it wasn't until that winter when I was in the office hanging around, being on call, just kind of stopping in every day to see what's going on. And I was seeing all these sales guys coming in, picking up their checks on Friday. And they had huge fat envelopes with big checks. And, they're talking about buying Rolexes. They're talking about buying new trucks, and managers looking at buying houses. And I'm like, what are these guys doing? I mean, I got to look at what we got going on. And so my production manager, I talked to him and I'm like, hey, what's the deal with these guys? Like, I mean, how does this work? And he's like, well, yeah, they knock on doors. And I'm like, knock on doors? Geez, you're knocking on doors, selling roofs. Had no idea it was storm damage back then because it wasn't as popular back in 2003, 2002. So I was like, well, I'm not going to do that. I don't see myself knocking on doors. So I was, shied away from it. But then all winter long, I just thought about that. Like, man, they're making good money. This could be my ticket to change my family tree, make some good money, do something. And so I was out there trying to figure out and catch some of the sales guys around the job sites when I was working that spring of 2003, and ran into a couple of them and just started talking with them, asking them like what they do and how they operate, and get kind of the lay of the land of what happens. And one of them said, hey, hop in my truck. We got company shirts on. Let's go down the street. I'll show you what we do. And that was kind of the opening of my sales career with that company, because we knocked on about 10, 11 doors down the street from that job that was going on. So obviously the buzz was kind of happening in the neighborhood, a lot going on with jobs being built. So the 11th door, they said yes. We hopped up. I was the ladder person. I grabbed the ladder, threw the ladder up, got on the roof. We're sitting there running around, filling out an agreement, looking at some damage, and get back down. This whole thing happened within like 1 hour of them, getting up on the roof, getting back down, showing the results and talking about the results, and then got him signed up. We get back in the truck and he's like, made $1,000. I'm like, you made $1,000? How does that even work? He's like, well, obviously it has to go through, it has to get approved by the insurance company. It has to, go through a lot more stages, but that's the first part of the job is, getting them signed up, pre-qualifying them for their home. If there's damage there, to walk them through the process. And every house in here could be $500 to $1,000 paycheck. So look around, there's a lot of money to be made. And I'm like, light bulb just went off. And then, I just started getting into it the next year, or that year I got into it. Started working with the team and started selling. But even before that, I had to convince the owners to make a move over to sales. And it's kind of a funny story. It's real quick. I sat down with my production manager, said, I want to get into sales. He's like, okay, yeah, I'll talk to the owners and I'll get back to you. And a week went by, nothing happened. And I went back again. I'm like, hey, I want to talk to the owners. I want to get into sales. I want to give this an opportunity. I want to give it a shot. And he's like, okay, I'll talk to them. And went over and talked to the owners. They finally came back and sat down with me. And they're like, you want to get into sales? And I'm like, yeah. And they're like, well, we never take people from production and move them into sales because you guys know too much. You're going to talk too much about all the different repairs, all the different things on their home. Like, we keep it real short and sweet, simple, with an opening and a closing to go through. And we just never done it before. We don't want to do it and have it be an issue. And so I pretty much had to beg, like, I mean, come on, I want to do this. Like, I want to make this change. And they laid out for me, like, well, if you make this change and you go over to sales and it doesn't work out for you, then our job, we might have to fill your position. And if we do, you're not going to have the opportunity to go back to be production. So it's like a big commitment. And I'm like, I'm betting on myself. I'm doing this. So I made the jump. And that year I sold 270 jobs in like 8 months in 2003 at 23 years old. And that jump started my career to where I made a few $100,000. And I was like, man, this is real. Like, this is crazy. And then the rest took off from there. We can kind of touch base as we go here. But yeah, that was kind of the start of my career in the business.
So I have so many questions I was writing as you were talking, and such an amazing start to your story here. And I loved how you had your mindset right now. All your limiters, right? I felt that I wasn't smart enough, or I felt I wasn't that, or wasn't this. And I want to draw your attention. That's not true. And so you're past, everything is past tense as you're talking. And I love that. And then you had a mindset shift from production, going from production to sales. You said a light bulb went off. So let me ask you a question. So that company in 2002 you started with, that's obviously a different company.
It is.
And you sold 270 jobs. What does the average roofing salesman usually sell nationwide? Just an average, like 100 jobs a year is their goal?
Yeah, I would say 100 jobs, 150 is kind of towards the top. I mean, for a lot of years, it was always like $1 million rep was a big thing. And back then, their goal was 150 jobs because the jobs were like average anywhere from $8,000 to $12,000 back then. It was a lot smaller. I mean, cost was a lot less. So they always had in there 150 jobs, to sell to go on a company trip. So that was like their number. So it was a really high standard back then, which even today, like, you hear a lot of companies, 100 jobs, 80 jobs, a lot of jobs, because they're just not, it's $25,000 on an average job, and you can get to $1 million pretty quick now these days.
Right.
But back then you had to hustle. You had to do a lot of jobs to get over $1 million in sales. And so they set the tone. And when we came out of the gate and really pushed, it's going all in.
It sounds like the company that you started at was very process driven, very business minded owners. Leastwise, that's how it seemed listening to you.
Yeah, they didn't have a lot of training. I mean, they just had a solid core group, and it was kind of an invite only. So it was people that they knew would come in. I think back then we only had like 12 or 13 salespeople in the company back then. And everyone all knew each other. It was like all friends of friends. And I knew my brother that knew them really well. So when I got in, I got close with all of them and started working. But they didn't do like weekly trainings. They didn't do a bunch of different stuff. They just really held you accountable on just staying out there, knocking on doors from 9 in the morning until 9 at night, and give you a stack of contracts and a little script and say, call with questions and get out there and get after it. And really came down to being self-motivated. And you pretty much learned yourself. Like, I would call my manager every single day, asking about this, asking about that, and learning as I went, and just kept it simple. and repeat and rinse, rinse and repeat. It was just like go, go, go. The more I can do in a day, 6 days a week, I was working 12, 16-hour days, just outwork everybody. And that's what I knew, just put in the work.
So up to this point, what was your biggest challenge, either personally or career wise, you had to overcome?
So for me, I mean, it was a business partner relationship. It was my second business that I opened up, and we got rolling. And yeah, he came in one day. We just weren't seeing eye to eye. We were butting heads a little bit, me and a few guys, and him and his team. And one day, he called me up and said, "Hey, come on into the office. I want to talk with you. I know we're kind of butting heads a little bit, and things are a little weird in the office." And walking by each other, not really talking. So I'm like, yeah, man, that's great. Let's do that. And thinking that there's something that we could easily work out, no big deal. So I showed up that next morning at 7 a.m. to the office, and he had his attorney there, and totally, completely blindsided me and moved all the cash out of the account, moved everything over. It was more of a handshake deal in that business and that second adventure. And didn't have nothing on paper. So he moved everything out of the account, ripped me off, ripped off all my sales guys. And we had to pretty much start over back in 2016. And that's when Built Strong was pretty much put back on the map. My brother started it in 14. I came over as the managing director to grow the branch and get it going. But it started with having everything kind of taken from me. We've had a ton of money out in the field to collect on. We paid ourselves a small salary, so we weren't paying ourselves a lot at the time. We were always putting it back into the business. So with that gut punch of that happening and having a ton of money out in the field that you were counting on getting towards the end of the year, you bonus yourself out, and then you can kind of keep paying yourself over time. It was like an investment back into the company. All that went away. And but I always say, like, I had to start over, but it was starting over with experience
Right.
and going to things a lot more from what I've learned from that experience. But it was tough. It was a 4-year run of dealing with trying to get that closure to close out and be done with it, plus opening a new company, a new branch, and growing and trying to manage all that success of us growing and trying to go in new directions, plus dealing with trying to close down the old branch and get closure there to get paid back out again for that location. So it was a tough time in business for sure.
Yeah. What was your biggest lesson that you learned during that time?
Yeah, be more aware. Make sure you have obviously an agreement in place if you have any kind of partners or any kind of agreement with anyone you do business with, or even having job descriptions. Just making sure you have things really laid out for a roadmap, and then don't avoid when you see a problem happening. Don't just look the other way and keep working, keep them busy. Just go and address it early on. And hopefully that could have ended on a different note. If he would have just talked to me, we could have worked through things. I was more than reasonable. Like, I could have just said, okay, you want to part ways? No big deal. Let's figure out a good exit plan and part ways. And I'll even not even take a bunch of it. Let's just work out something that's fair. And I would have easily walked away, and it would have been a nicer, friendly parting ways. But the way he did it was so cutthroat to where it burned a lot of bridges for me and all my salespeople that came with me over to the new company. And it was just it was an ugly deal. And I don't know why he ever got to that position to where he wanted to do it that way, but it was a big deal. So
Yeah.
it was a big setback.
Partnerships are like marriage. You're in it, and it's contract. Usually, it's contractual, and it's almost like a marriage. I mean, it's a big deal when your business partner says, "I'm out, and by the way, you have nothing. Here you go. Hand the
Yeah.
keys over, and you're out of here."
Yeah.
Um, and you mentioned that you were going different directions. Was that you were doing more than just roofs?
No, we were in the same business. We were doing it's just our mindset. It just seemed like he was shifting towards wanting to make a lot of different changes in the business and do things that I've already tried in my previous experience. Because he came in 2008 to work with me at a previous company that we were part of. And that business, we grew with my business partner. We parted ways and sold it off to a franchising company. So we rebranded to open this company, and I got to keep all Minnesota for our main headquarters location to rebrand. Well, he was working with me from '08 until 2000, pretty much 10, to where he became my sales manager. And then he ran it for me while I was running around setting up franchises and training those locations. So we became really good friends and we were working together. But then it wasn't until we parted ways with that first company in 2013 and rebranded in 14. So from 14 until 16, middle of June, when that all happened, it was like a 2.5 year run to where we just started not really being on the same page. He was going different directions. I was going different directions. What we were doing. I was more out in the field training and selling out in the field. He was kind of more in the office, working and holding down the fort in the office. And I just don't really know what his mindset was, but he just thought that it would be better off to part ways and take a few of his guy and go open the location closer to where he lived, because he lived about an hour away from where we were at. So he was driving in every single day. And I just think he had his reasons, and we weren't on the same page. We weren't aligned. And then we let it go for like 4 months, 5 months of just us not really talking and working through it. We were just always busy doing our own thing. We weren't touching base, and things just kept getting worse and just kind of pulling more apart, to where he made the decision to come in and just completely blindside me and take everything and move the company. So,
And I can certainly appreciate the depth of your story, the different challenges from trying to go from production to sales and betting on yourself, letting go of production with no guarantee you could go back to going through that transition from 2010 to 16 and all that. That story makes Built Strong's story as a company as a whole, the successes that you personally and the company have achieved, all the sweeter. So
yeah.
what did you do differently with Built Strong than all your previous companies you were involved in? Because it seems like, well, let me keep my opinions out of it. I want to hear from you.
Yeah, definitely. Well, originally the company was already up and running. My brother started it in 2014. So he was working out of his house, doing his thing, just selling enough jobs where he was comfortable with making money. So when we were going through our problems and whatnot, he was always just reaching out saying, "Hey, if anything ever happens, you can come over here, and I'd love to have you working with me and help me grow this brand, instead of you going and open another company and redoing it and whatever else." So that was always in my back of my mind, thinking if anything ever did happen, but never thought that it would ever happen to where he would come in and take the company and completely pull that on me. So
Right.
I was always like, "Nope, thanks, I appreciate it." But when it happened, I was sitting there not really sure what I was going to do. And I literally sat down at the table with my 8 salespeople that were all left with me, and we were sitting around, and I was to a point where I'm like, man, I built a brand, a huge brand, parted ways and sold it off to a franchising company, which is still around. It's still out there, which is cool to see it growing and building a cool brand. And then starting a new company, going for 2.5 more years of building and really ramping up very fast within 2.5 years of building a company again, and then having it all taken away from me. I was like, I was checked out. I'm like, I don't know if I want to keep doing this anymore. Like I went down to the table with my other guys and I said, you guys, you guys figure it out. You guys get the license. I'll sell for you guys. Like, let's just, whoever wants to do this. So there was 2 guys in the room that were like, yeah, we could do this. I mean, we'll get it going. We'll figure it out. And like, so let's just take a week. Let's all just kind of regroup. We'll come back in a week and we'll touch base and figure out our game plan, what we're going to do moving forward. And so I was literally giving them the torch, saying, "You guys can take this over, and I'll follow your lead. I'll go and sell." I really enjoyed selling, because I would go out there and help homeowners and get the results, and I would feel good about that. So I was just kind of done a little bit dealing with ownership or dealing with managing. But then I had a week. We came back. We sat back down, and I'm looking around. I'm like, okay, what did you guys decide? Like, what's the game plan? And those 2 and everyone all said, "We want you to run this. We want you to lead us." And so that hit home for me. I'm like, man, you guys, like, I was kind of wanting to be checked out and just go and sell and take all the pressure off of me. But with you guys saying that, I was like, man, I have to do this. I can't let you guys down. And I want to make sure I can open a new location, a new brand, and build it to where I can make sure that I can make sure my people are taken care of. They're never going to have the chance of ever getting screwed over on their commissions because we went through that and lived it.
Right.
So that was on my shoulders to keep doing because they want to follow me. And I just felt honored to where I could not let them down. So that's when Built Strong, which works out perfectly because we needed a Built Strong mindset. We needed a Built Strong attitude moving forward and to become better from what we are already dealing with. So when I came over, my brother gave me the keys pretty much and said, you run this thing, you do it, you help me out and get this thing going. So I signed on as the managing director. We have everything put in place to where it's all set up to where I have my own locations, managing them and building them. And so, yeah, we built it up to what it is today with it from 2016 to where it's at now, just been exploding, bringing in more people, ramping up, having control, learning, always going to masterminds, going to conferences, learning to become better so I can never let my team down, to always have them looking up and learning from me, from what I'm taking from all this stuff, and just get my mind right, just getting my mind in the right place. And that's why I always post a bunch of motivational stuff every morning, because I want to put out good vibes. I want good vibes back, and I want to help people become better and teach them what I've learned over the years. And been a lot of things that I've learned, what to do, what not to do. And now I just want to be more vocal and get people out there advice to help them out so they can avoid a lot of these big potholes.
Yeah, I have to say, having the 8 guys say, you know what, we want you to be the leader, that speaks volumes about you as a person. Um, I watch a lot of big personalities and egos on social media across all industries beat their chest, and I often wonder, what about the people within their organizations? What would they say about them? Do they have a lot of turnover? And when you have other people singing your praises and accolades and choosing you to be their leader, that speaks louder than anything I'm not saying you, I'm saying just in general, a person could ever say about themselves. When you have other people sing your praises for you, that right there was a beautiful moment for me listening to the story. How many locations do you currently have?
So right now it's in our Twin Cities market. We have 3 locations right in the Twin Cities, only because we kind of outgrew our local office on where we were at. So we could have one main office right in the Twin Cities, but we have like 3 that are all within like 10 miles from each other, because we have one doing production for that office space. We have one over in Lake Elmo that has our main headquarters, is like our collection department, um, AR, receivable invoicing, mortgage division, and then also all of our sales staff is over in that building. And then we have a small little office down in Bayport, which we have like our consultant, myself, and a few assistants like working on the business down here. And it's only because we didn't have the space to be right in for the main office until we can take over more space in that building when the renters move out at some point. But yeah, and then we have the one down in Rochester that we just opened. So that one was fairly new in the last year and a half. We set that one up to start a new location down in Rochester, which is only about an hour and a half south of the Twin Cities. It's a nice little market down there that we want to be in. We were doing work down there quite a bit off and on over the years since 2017. We just didn't have like a storefront office down there to really build it out. So now we're going to start focusing on building that office out and mimic the same office up in Lake Elmo. So,
Wow, that is amazing. Uh, from 2016 to now, what does the future hold for Built Strong?
yeah, we're just going to keep building. I mean, it's right now we're having fun. Like, I still enjoy this after 22 years of doing this. I enjoy going in. I did shift a lot from when I was working in the business. So for about 20 years, I've been in the business working, knocking on a lot of doors and training and doing that, to where the last year and a half, I've been just working more on the business. So last year I really pulled back, and I go out to the main office on Mondays for our big company meetings, hang around a little bit, and then Fridays for our leadership meetings and hang around a little bit. And then I'm back down in my Bayport office, kind of brainstorming, networking, going to conferences, working on the business, trying to figure out what's next on where we're going. But our plan is to grow to 100 million. That's going to be our big milestone. Once we get there, then we're going to readjust it to 200 million, and we're just going to keep rolling.
Wow. So I want to touch on something that has become very prevalent within the roofing industry in the past 12 to maybe 24 months. So there has been a lot of equity or private money flowing into the roofing industry and the claims industry as a whole, and a lot of roll-ups, a lot of buyouts, a lot of consolidating of the roofing industry, which is, in my opinion, was long overdue. This industry is ripe for it. What is your opinion on some of the equity monies and private monies coming into the industry? Is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing?
Yeah, I think it's a good thing. I mean, yeah, there's a lot of great companies that I know, business owners that are rolling up into this PE, and I just hope that when they're moving into these PE companies that they're all as good as they say they are, because there's a lot of different ones that are doing it right now, and I'm just watching and paying attention to it. I don't know what our plan's going to be as of right now. We're just being patient and doing our thing and staying focused for our goals and what we're doing. But I just know, I mean, partnership's been tough. I mean, especially for me. So I've always been like, I don't want to just jump back into a partnership and have them have complete control of my people not getting paid or squeezing them out for their paychecks and saying, hey, you're making too much, we got to say the bottom line, and they make the call on who goes and who stays. I want to be able to control that, because a lot of them been with me for a long time, to where, yeah, they do make a lot of money, but they've been here part of the big changes of all the different companies. And like my longest one's been with me for 18 years, a handful over 10, 12 years, quite a few over 5 years. And so like a lot of them been with me through this, last few company changes. So it's like, last thing I want to do is have them get squeezed out by somebody else that comes in and says, nope, you're getting overpaid, I'm going to move you out because we got to save on the bottom line. That scares me. So, but if it ever came down to where it was the right alignment or the right people that are in there and it's going really good for a while, then maybe. But as of right now, it's just too early for me to ever make a jump on something like that.
Yeah. Is there a fear, or is there a concern that a roofing company backed by large amounts of money would make a play for your market and really try to come in and dominate the market? Because I think you're probably one of the largest in your market, if I'm not mistaken.
No, there's a handful of much bigger ones in our market. But the thing is I'm never scared of that, because I always look at myself as that we're the competition. So I know they could come in and they can have a ton of companies all merge and whatnot, but there's literally thousands and thousands of homes. And I don't care if they have 10 companies that merge together, those 10 companies are still out there doing what they're doing. And as long as we can keep maxing ourselves out and get what we can do for our people and get a piece of it. I mean, some storms come through and they label them as $1 billion storm. Well, I can't get all of that anyways, and then they can't get it all. So I mean, we're going to get our piece of the pie. And so I think there's always going to be work out there for anybody that's independently or part of the big roll up. But
Yeah, I love the abundance mindset. That is, in my opinion, probably a secret to, if you talk to anyone that has had massive success in business, that is a common thread I've seen and I've heard across all industries. And just about anyone I've ever talked to is they have an abundance mindset, which I love. Well done. The and then keyword in the industry is artificial intelligence technology. That is certainly. So I talked to a gentleman a couple of days ago. He's based out of Canada. And in my opinion, I thought artificial intelligence we are in 2024 where the internet was in 1999. And he goes, no. He goes, actually, we're in 1995. I thought we were a whole lot closer to seeing a mass adoption of artificial intelligence than what we really are. Um, and but I think that from 1995 to 99, it was like 4 years, maybe 5 years to the year 2000. I think we're going to see the hockey stick effect a lot sooner. It might be a year, it might be 18 months or 24 months.
Yeah.
Companies are doing a lot of evaluating, a lot of analysis, a lot of studying on how to implement AI properly, ethically, what software, what programming language, and they have their analysts, and they're doing what they do. How do you think that the advent of artificial intelligence and technology, what is that going to do to the industry, or maybe even apply it to your business? How are you looking at the technology aspect?
Yeah, we're definitely, it's on our radar. I mean, we are playing with it a little bit. I mean, typing out scripts or just typing in different things to see what it comes back with. I mean, there's a lot of time that's going to save you for just processes or, marketing. I mean, I'm seeing a lot of it for marketing for what people are using for their companies now. So we haven't dug too much into it, but we're definitely on our radar, and it's only going to help. I think it's going to speed things up.
Yeah. How are you? Is there any particular part of the company that you're looking at implementing it first? Is it the operations, the sales, the customer service, the ordering, the measurements? What part of the company are you looking at potentially as a first implementation of AI technology?
Yeah, probably on the marketing side. I mean, if we can really put something in place, or if it's auto dialing, or if it's whatever, getting leads, generating, coming in to marketing, getting the brand out there, being in front of people, just speeding things up instead of having to count on, you know, one person doing it. You can have that done in a fraction of the time. So there's going to be definitely spots for it that we can utilize, probably on the sales side. I mean, eventually on the production side, you would think. I mean, it's coming, and everyone I keep talking to keeps bringing it up. Like, it's coming. It's not going away. This is going to
No.
really be a big part. So if you don't adapt and get used to it and get ahead of it, it's going to be something that's going to blindside you. So
Let me go on, I guess, to because we're almost out of time here. I guess a closing question I like to ask a lot of folks, and if you had to, it's not business related at all, but if you had to pick one person to go to dinner with from the past or from the present, who would that be and why?
yeah, I would say right off the cuff here, trying to think. I mean, there's a lot of people I would want to obviously go to dinner with and pick their brain and learn from them. But I would say, as of right now, that I haven't sat down with would be maybe Tony Robbins. I would go that route, just because that guy has been everywhere in the world. He's coaching, he's doing a ton of amazing things. He's a life coach, business coach, and I went down to a couple events and watched a lot of his stuff. And he had some good moments for me for my mindset and the time that I was really down and out of
Yeah.
being there at his conference, and it was at a good time from when I went down. And there's a lot of things in that whole 4 days that I went to that event for, but the one thing that really stuck to me was just, things don't happen to you, they happen for you. And if you can really get past everything coming at you, and you can't control them coming at you, but you can control how you handle it, that shift my mindset to where now when I'm watching motivational videos, when I'm getting around other like-minded business owners, you deal with a ton of stuff every single day. And if your mind's in the wrong place and you're always thinking about things are happening to you and you're getting beat up and you're always down and out, you're not thinking clearly, and you're always playing defense instead of offense. And so if you can really get on the mindset of just things happen for you, and even with that whole partnership that went down, I was always like, why is this happening to me? I helped the guy out. I co-signed for his truck. I did all these things to help this guy get on his feet when he was down and out. And he goes and does this to me. And all the
Wow.
things in the past of sales guys coming and going, having their reasons, just having these different things happen. I'm like, why is this happening to me? Like, I'm just trying to do a good business, taking care of people. putting my best foot forward all the time and giving the shirt off my back and just being a great person. And then you get crapped on because they find the one thing to complain about instead of the 100 good things. And it's like, why are you focusing on the one bad thing? Let's focus on all the good things. And when there's a problem, bring me a solution. Let's work with it instead of always pointing and complaining and focusing on that negativity, to where that I needed at that time when I went there, and I learned that, and I just started to live by that for my model of,
Hmm.
I'm going to look at everything and look back that that whole thing happened for a reason, because now he's not part of what I'm doing today. And that had to happen that way for him to go ahead and rip me off and my guys off, for that moment to happen, for them to pick me to be their leader and to keep going and have that drive to where now nothing's ever going to take me down. And my mindset's going to be to where I'm never going to quit. I'm never going to stop learning. I'm only going to win or learn, never fail, because I'll never quit. And that's my mindset moving forward, to where things happen for me, not to me. And that's the way I live. So if I could sit down and have dinner with him and pretty much thank him for that moment, for my mindset shift, and then just to learn from that guy. I mean, the knowledge he has got to be just over the top. So
Yeah.
it'd be cool.
Wow. That's awesome. Just the mindset nuggets that you just dropped there, your thought process. I hope whoever's listening to this understands the importance of what you just laid out right there. That was amazing. I love I follow you on Facebook, social media, and I love to see your quotes and the memes that you post, the mindset matters, and absolutely love it. Um, last question I have: is there one piece of advice that you would provide to a business owner, or maybe even specifically a roofing owner that is coming up behind you, that was where you were in 2015, 2016? What's that one piece of advice you would give to them?
Yeah, I would have them get around other business owners that are doing the things that they want to do. I mean, if I wish I knew now what I knew, or I wish I knew now what I didn't know then back in the day, of being around people that are already doing things way above me, to where I can learn from faster and get there faster and hopefully miss a few potholes or a few hurdles along the way. And I mean, that's the biggest, fastest secret to success, is focus on what you want and get around those people and learn from them, because everyone that's winning and
Right.
doing really good things in their industry, in any kind of business, they want to share, they want to help. Like, even for my story, like, anyone can reach out to me. I will give back anything that I can, because I always said, if I ever make it to a certain point in my career and I keep growing, I'm always going to reach back and pull the guy up, because I didn't have that leadership back in the day. I didn't have a mentor. I didn't have a business coach. My parents were the best leaders for me, and the way I am, for staying humble and being a good person, but they didn't know the business savvy part of it. So I had to go out there and find it on my own. And then once I started getting around the hustle to get me around doing bigger things, now paying the money, paying the price to get around other people that are doing things that are amazing. Now it's being in those rooms, learning from other people, getting remotivated and learning new things, and little golden nuggets along the way, to where you can just keep on the right path and get there faster. I mean, you can knock off 10 years, 15 years of reading a book, right? I mean, you have a life story guy has been doing it for 30 years. You read his book, you have all of his little golden nuggets in one setting or in one book. And same thing with a mastermind. You go down and hear these speakers, like, I get around all of them, and I'm like, man, I always take away one or two golden nuggets every single time and try to just put it in my tool belt and freaking, roll with it and come back to my team to get them pumped up, to be able to help elevate them and give back. I mean, because most people that are successful, I mean, it's most of them had to go through a lot of grind. They had to go through failures. They had to go through being broke and really, get out of their comfort zone. So most of them want to give back and help, because they didn't have it back in the day, and they want to share that success. And part of being around the win-win mindset of, if everyone's winning, it's better. It's not a win-lose, it's a win-win.
Love it. Tony, thank you so much for your time today. And just you yourself are a just business wise, personality. Love speaking with you every single time we have a chance to speak. Thank you for your time.
Yeah, thank you, man. I really appreciate it and look forward to seeing you at some more events down the road and catching up. So thanks for reaching out, and we'll talk to you soon.
Sounds good. Thank you, Tony. Take
All
care.
right, thank you. Bye.